Right, let's take you live to the Antalya Diplomacy Forum and listen to another panel, this one discussing the rising role of Africa in world politics.
Major powers. It was you mentioned about the five countries ruling the whole world through Security Council. This was by design. It didn't come by accident. This was by design. And if you look at the same influence is also applied to the African unity that we have. So we are very much now focused on our sub-regional bodies, and we usually go with our sub-regional bodies. We have seen them more effective, more delivering, and with better negotiating terms. We have tariffs, cross-border tariffs, which are more effective and working very closely rather than the continental bodies. So I think it will take some time before we strengthen our sub-regional bodies to go to the main continental body. I'm not talking even about the world. That will come at a later stage. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. Minister for Foreign Affairs, Republic of Ghana, Samuel. In what ways has the increasing global interest in Africa translated into concrete diplomatic, economic, and security partnerships?
Well, thank you very much. And let me also commend colleagues for their contributions and to thank the government of Turkey for putting this Antalya Diplomacy Forum together. My brother from Tanzania was talking about time that is going to take us a lot of time to meet some of the objectives that we have set for ourselves. But I must say respectfully that we don't have time. And we have to go beyond business as usual. If you look at the current geopolitical climate, it's clear that Africa is not going to be the priority of the so-called traditional partners. We have never been, and we will not be moving forward. The Europeans are focusing on defense. It's all about the Russia-Ukraine war. They are rechanneling their financial muscle away from international aid to defense and how to combat their perceived threats from Russia. You've seen what the United States of America has done. Africa has been hit in multiple dimensions, from deportations to cutting aid. In the health sector in Ghana alone, we had to look for $156 million in our budget that was approved just 2 weeks ago by our parliament to take care of the gap that the USAID withdrawal created. And so this reality should tell us that we are not anybody's priority. We cannot wait for anybody, and we should not be relying on anybody. We should depend on ourselves. We are a continent of 1.4 billion people. Huge market, $3.4 trillion gross domestic product. What else are we waiting for? We have all the resources we need to develop, from oil and gas, gold, diamond, bauxite, timber, water resources, and most importantly, the people, a very young population. We are the youngest continent in the world. So we have the employment base. If we train our youth, give them the skills they need, we have the markets, we have the resources. Why are we here waiting for anybody? And why should we be interested in who wants to have influence in Africa? Let's put ourselves together, have our own influence, call the shots. We have all the resources. God has blessed us with everything we need. And what is happening now should tell us that nobody out there really cares about us.
All right.
We should care about ourselves. We have the Agenda 2063. We've been talking about the Africa Atlantic Gas Pipeline Project. Let's make it happen. We've been talking about the corridor that should connect 5 West African countries, the Abidjan-Lomé corridor. We've been spending too much time on feasibility studies. We know what to do.
All right.
Let's get to work and let us liberate our continent. That's what we should be focusing on.
All right, and I like what you've said, that it all begins with us as Africans and the leadership of the African continent. So, Mehmet, I mean, then the question that we seek to answer is whether Africa has the political clout. Do you think we as Africans and as a continent, we have the political clout to change the dynamics of engagement in international institutions, and whether that clout is enough in terms of influence and policy outcomes?
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm sure there is. But the issue here, I mean, as the systemic transformation is happening at global level, the question is how Africa wants to locate itself in this transformation. Yes, Minister mentions there are lots of opportunities, yes, but how to operationalize this at institutional level, at also local level? I think that's the biggest question. For example, in my understanding, someone from outside, I think the best thing would be Africa should compete with each other. If Africa competes with other continents, I think it doesn't create any opportunity, because Africa is too big to act alone. So each region, if they compete each other, I think that would create more energy, and then that would create more opportunities. That should be the straightforward. And also, I mean, another issue is what I see from outside. Yes, Africa has lots of institutions at regional level, international level, but what I see, they are losing their political visions, although they talk a lot, but they are becoming more technical and bureaucratic institutions, including African Union or many other institutions. So then to focus too much on the institutions may not lead something. Perhaps Africa needs leadership, intellectual leadership, and that requires serious questions. As the world is transforming, what is the future of Africa? How they should relocate itself in this transforming? Whether Africa wants to become a bystander or they want to be a proactive actor. That's the question that I think all the ministers here can respond.
All right. I want to open the and to give our audience this time to ask a question, because I believe they have questions to ask. So you'll just get note of the question that will be asked. But let me begin with my question. I'll be a bit selfish here. And this question can be answered by any of the representatives of the countries that are here, because it touches, what I'm about to ask touches on, like all of us are affected. The question is, as Africa navigates the internal and the cross-border challenges, such as extremism, migration, and climate change, what role can international cooperation play in fostering resilience and stability? Okay, I'll start with Sarah, a minute, and then Samuel, a minute.
Yes, so I believe it goes back to the original point we're making in the first place. International cooperation is about how we move past these institutions and go back to who we are as Africans. We're families that have been disconnected by lines drawn by others. And we need to start discussing. I was recently in Burkina Faso. I was recently in Mali. Last night I was with Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. And I was discussing with them. The tribe I come from in Liberia, the Vai tribe, emanates from the Malian Empire. What are we saying? Whether there's ECOWAS or there's not ECOWAS, we're still families in West Africa. And so we need to move past all of that and start to have dialogue, real dialogue about how we work together to ensure that we protect our borders, we protect our young people from extremism. We are the last frontier, the Mano River Union countries, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. We're the last frontier from those from the Sahel. So we started security cooperation with Burkina Faso, with Mali. We're discussing those things because at the end of the day, with or without those institutions, the threats are real. And we must confront them together.
All right, Foreign Affairs Minister Ghana.
Absolutely agree with my sister Sarah. I mean, I'm from the Ewe ethnic group. I go into Togo and I'm speaking the same Ewe language, same culture, same traditions. I go into Benin, same Ewe language, same culture, same traditions. Ivory Coast, same. The Ivorian foreign minister is here. He'll tell you about the Akan roots, which transcend Ivory Coast all the way into Ghana. Multiple regions, from Ashanti region, Western, Central region. So these are artificial boundaries, part of the the challenges that we face. It's created all of these needless tensions, an identity crisis, and we really need to take the African integration agenda seriously. I mean, if you want to travel a short distance from Ghana to Benin, you can find a direct flight. You have to be struggling through Togo and then to Benin. You want to travel to Namibia, to Mozambique from Ghana, you can't find a direct flight. You have to travel to Europe before coming back into Africa. So we need to deal with these barriers. We need to invest in infrastructure, and we need to really take the Pan-African agenda more seriously than we have been. It's been about lip service, and we continue to fall prey to the divide and rule, which has continued to leave us behind. And we forget that we have always been a united people, strong empires, with a certain very enviable history, which unfortunately we have allowed the colonialists and the imperialists to.
Right, we'll pull away on that discussion involving Africa Matters at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. But we will take you straight away to another one. Discussions going on at in several places at several times. This is a panel discussing European security, and we can hand over now to TRT World's presenter Alijan Ayanlar, who is there in Antalya.
Replying to your question, Ukrainian security and European security are indivisible. Indivisible, and today, sorry for my humble opinion, in Ukraine is shaping future of European security, and not only European security, but transatlantic security. And European security matters for Asia, matters for Middle East, matters for Africa. It is directly linked. You also mentioned Helsinki Act, thanks for this, because it is really important to remember that Russia violated 10 principles of Helsinki Act. Also this year we mark 80 years of UN Charter. Why I am telling this? Because it is important that international law should be law, not simply declarations, not simply words. And you see, Ukraine also is an example after 24th of February that this system, international system, is dysfunctional. We are the evidence of this. This system is unjust. We need additional tools of enforcement. We need reforms. We need reforms in UN. We need reforms, by the way, of humanitarian law, of Geneva Convention. We need to update them. Having such atrocities in Ukraine, not only in Ukraine, in different geographies, in Syria, we need to amend, we need to update Geneva Conventions. And Ukraine, having such a bitter experience, we are ready to contribute. We are ready to contribute. Now about peace. Ukraine wants peace. We want to end this war this year. But it is important not to manipulate with the term peace, just long-lasting, comprehensive. And you see, I had a lot of conversations yesterday and today with my African counterparts, and I really impressed. Main point of our discussions was peace and also dignity. That's why just and comprehensive peace also means dignity. From how this war will end in Ukraine depends future architecture of security in Europe. Depends future security of every family in Europe. That's why it is fundamentally important to achieve just, long-lasting, comprehensive peace. After Jeddah, we got additional energy and additional opportunities to achieve just peace.
Minister, I want to ask you, I understand that you're laying all this out, and that's very fair, I do understand, but given the current climate, how do you achieve that? How do you achieve a political resolution? How do you achieve a ceasefire, given the stance of the opposing side, not only with the Russians, but also with the American administration?
The recipe is very simple. Engagement and leadership of the United States to raise the price of further aggression for Russian side and to strengthen Ukraine.
Okay. Minister Kulich Radman, your Ukrainian counterpart was saying Ukraine equals European security. If we were to take that as a base, do you think that it is enlargements, whether it's EU or NATO, is it strategically imperative, or is it just part of the political process?
Both of them. So I would say that first of all, we see the European continent as one area, and politically, as in the whole continent should be affirmed as one area where the countries share the common values. Actually, the European Union is an organization, a regional organization for democracy values. First of all, it was also Croatian desire and goal to achieve membership in the European Union, and not only because of that it is a desire of a political establishment. It's because of our citizens, reforms, rule of law. It's something that how is possible just not to this world to stay sustainable. That we need to have rules. The rules we are respecting, mutual respect, and of course respecting everything what is connected. And in this reason, Croatia also respects and supports strongly EU enlargement. If you see Ukraine, if Ukraine wants to be a member of the EU, first of all, they have to fulfill some commitments. They should be committed, and when it comes to criteria, benchmark, and so on. Similar to as we did during our negotiation process. Croatia, Slovenia as a former republics of former Yugoslavia. And now you see the Western Balkans. Western Balkans need also to be a part of the European Union. It's logically, first of all, naturally, pragmatically, and something that we can create an area of common values. And Western Balkans countries, of course, they are on the way to achieve it. And Croatia, as also other European member states, are willing to have all these countries. Croatia needs now nothing. We achieved everything when it comes to foreign policy goals. Only OECD membership, but so we are on the way to achieve it also in the spring 2026. But for us is of utmost importance our immediate neighborhood, stability and institutional functionality of the neighborhood. Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, and so on, all the countries. And Croatia is a vocal proponent of the EU enlargement, but of course not added other costs. They have to fulfill some criteria, merit-based approach, individual achievements, like we did. And so Croatia really worked hard to fulfill all their criteria, but of course, so the hard work does pay off, and so we'd like also to see Ukraine, to see Moldova, and to see all the countries in the Western Balkans in the European Union.
Okay.
Croatia can offer expertise and, of course, our experience during the negotiations process.
All right, maybe we can get into in the next round. Mr. Koulibaly-Pires, I do have to say that I know that you have a plane to catch, so I want to get you into the conversation as quickly as I can. You've heard both of the ministers, but concerning the war in Ukraine, I'm wondering NATO's perspective in terms of its priorities, in terms of ensuring its political cohesion matches the military adaptation. What is your view and your response?
Thanks very much. And first, it's very good to be here in Turkey, good to be in this panel, and good to be in the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. So many things were said. Let me pick up on a couple of those. First, on the Ukrainian war, it is, as the foreign minister knows, the utmost priority of the organization I represent to continue to support Ukraine. We know what we have to do. It is to double down the efforts in supporting Ukraine, to put the Ukrainians in a position of strength in the negotiations that are being led by our American friends. And we welcome very much that the US administration has decided to lead that process. We hope that a just and long-lasting peace will be soon implemented. And we also have heard Washington being very clear on how Europeans need to step up their efforts, particularly on the security guarantees that the Ukrainians would need. And I applaud very much the efforts by the UK and by the French that we are accompanying, and many other European allies are accompanying. That first. Second, something that is very relevant, particularly for this forum, is the interconnectivity that the foreign minister was mentioning. We see interconnectivity in many examples. I would mention the North Korean soldiers in Kursk, the use of Iranian drones in the Russia war against Ukraine, the impact of the war in food security and energy security worldwide, but particularly in the southern neighborhood that I deal with on a daily basis as special rep for the southern neighborhood of NATO. Also the impact on regional stability of the war in Gaza. So we see lots of connections there, and I think that we need to take all of it into account when we think about European security architecture. And a last word on that. I think we are rethinking the factors of the equation of European security architecture, but I don't think we need to change European security architecture. I think the factors of the equation that had as an outcome transatlantic collective defense should continue to have the same outcome, transatlantic collective defense. But yes, the factor needs to change. We heard very, very clearly the Americans want the Europeans to do more. We've been probably on the best end of the bargain for many decades. The Americans were doing a lot, the Europeans were doing less. Now the Europeans will need to do more, but the Americans will continue to be engaged. We heard that very clearly last week on the Foreign Ministerial, where the Secretary...
Well, you've just been listening to a number of members of a panel discussing European security, all of this taking place at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum on Turkey's Mediterranean coast as the discussions carry on all day. That one particularly interesting given what is happening right now in Europe. Let's bring in Ilyas Avci from Antalya for some reaction to that. Ilyas, European security, as I mentioned, a very pressing issue, not just because of Russian aggression, but also the shift in stance from the White House since Donald Trump came back into office.
Exactly, Aaron. In 1975, Helsinki Act was signed, and it's been 50 years since that was signed, and that act laid the foundation of Europe's security architecture. And now, today, Europe finds itself at a very critical juncture because of the ongoing war in Ukraine. But not only that, as you said, because of the shifting policies of the White House. The U.S.'s latest move really showed that it might not be the best ally when it comes to a full-blown war, and Europe might not be ready for that full-blown war if that the time comes to that. NATO is the bedrock of Europe's security, yet the U.S. shows unwillingness to continue to be a part of NATO either. So today, European leaders, 5 foreign ministers from Europe, are talking about the future outlook of Europe's security architecture after the 50 years. After 50 years have passed since Helsinki Act was signed in 1975.